Hi, this is Rod from Boomer Guitar Sessions. Did you know that the Rolling Stones, when they first got together, they did not intend to be a rock and roll band? What do I mean when I say this? What they wanted to be was a Chicago blues style band. Now, they were from London, but their heroes were all the blues musicians that are coming out of Chicago. So much so that their own name comes from a Muddy Waters tune. So the Muddy Waters, all the Chicago Blues, Howlin' Wolf, all those guys, those were the heroes that they looked up to. So from a very early age, Brian Jones, Keith Richards, they were students of Chicago Blues from Delta Blues and the tunings that those guitar players would be using when they played. Now, slide guitar, which is a Chicago blues and Delta blues, was widely. It was the first style of soloing on the blues guitar. Before we had T-Bone Walker playing single note line stuff and all that stuff. Years before in the Delta, it was a bottleneck slide, and that's what gave birth to the Chicago blues sound. They just electrified it. Okay, so now Keith Richards, what they do, they tour the United States. They start out kind of covering a lot of their heroes, the music of their heroes. Then eventually what they do is they start writing their own songs because they realize that the only way you're going to develop a career of your own is by going past just imitating your heroes. You got to come up with your own original stuff. So that's when they became the Rolling Stones. They started becoming the Rolling Stones, we all know. So somewhere around 1968, Brian Jones, Keith Richards, they were all getting to know a lot of American musicians like Jesse Ed Davis and like Taj Mahal. These were blues titans, blues aficionados. They all gathered around the blues. And more importantly, or most importantly, in this episode is the music and guitar artistry of Ry Cooder. Now, who Ry Cooder was, he was a slide guitar player and a blues guitar player, and he's really, really good. What he taught Keith, what Keith took away from it, because the guys had been playing the blues in alternate tuning since the beginning, because that was the way their heroes had played it. It never occurred to them to write songs in that alternate tuning that weren't blues. Okay? So, what Ry taught Keith by osmosis, or it's like the epiphany, the light bulb struck, it was a light bulb moment for Keith, was that open G tuning can be used in the songwriting process, and it doesn't necessarily have to sound like the blues. So what is open G tuning? That is what I kind of call the Keith Richards tuning, but open G, it is a tuning that originally the slide guitar players and the Delta blues guitar players used to use. The tuning is as follows. You have your D, you have your G, you have your D, you have your G, you have a B, and then a high D. And that's your Delta blues tuning, or the open G tuning. So with that said, what Keith would later on do is he would start coming up with sounds that were not the blues, but blues-ish. So many of the late 60s, early 70s Rolling Stones, if you ever noticed that their sound kind of morphed into something completely different, that is because of the open G tuning that Ry had passed down to Keith Richards. So some of the signature riffs that Keith had wrote. It just sounds like the Rolling Stones. Now, everybody who takes from that, everybody who kind of borrows from Keith Richards' guitar style, that is the thing that they usually that they latch onto, that open G tuning, to how open Gs can open up completely new worlds. It defined sounds of future bands, kind of like the Black Crowes. Early Kiss had a lot of this stuff, a lot of blues rock stuff. Okay, so when you hear the also two guitar setups where one of the guitar players can be in open G and the other guitar players can be in standard tuning. So like the Mick Taylor, Keith Richards era, and the Ron Wood, and a lot of that. The lead guitar player was in standard tuning a lot of the time. So open G, Keith Richards, Ry Cooder. That's it for this Boomer session. I will see you next time. Tell everybody you know about the channel. Tell everybody you know about what we're doing here. And thanks for being there. See ya.